Hey,
Hey, Vlad. Hey, Ahmed.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
morning.
Welcome to the Kubernetes demo for May 25th. I don't have anything to demo myself. Before we get into discussion items, Henry, I see you've got a discussion item. Do you have anything you want to demo first? Otherwise, I'll just start the discussion.
I think it's not so much a demo as more a discussion about our approach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'll get us started. GitLab SSHD. This has been an ongoing desire to get implemented. Currently, we're at a state where yesterday we tried to do an implementation of this again inside of Canary, but per the usual, we were hitting a wide array of SLI violations, which were causing alerts to the EOC, so we rolled it back yet again. Ahmad has created a new change request, so we have a desire to roll this out later today. We are waiting for a specific merge request, which contains some adjustments to the metrics that are being gathered that contribute to the aptX alerting. So should that go well, hopefully we'll be in a place where we could keep that in place. If not, we'll roll it back again and do a take two. I think this kind of highlights a situation where I'm a little frustrated that we are the gatekeepers for this style of configuration change, because this will be take, I think, 8 on enabling this in Canary, which is kind of a little infuriating. But I think to sort that kind of situation out would require a lot more effort elsewhere within the organization, try to figure out what we could do with that kind of thing. But outside of that, the other thing that we'll also be doing shortly is creating a test procedure for rolling out the actual proxy protocol change. So this will be step 2 towards allowing the IP allow listing change for this feature set, or for this rapid action group related to GitLab SSHD. My goal currently with this one is to work with Ahmad and create the necessary change request. The first thing that we need to do, however, is reset staging to make it look like what production would look like if GitLab SSHD were to be fully rolled out, and then actually test the procedure of creating the testing procedure, rolling it out and rolling it backward, just to make sure that we understand the implications and make sure that we don't have any outages as we perform this rollout. There is chatter about potentially testing the use of OpenSSHD instead of GitLab SSHD, just in case there's some sort of significant issue found after a rollout has been completed. I think the idea certainly has merit. It's just a matter of finding the time to squeeze that testing in place. Currently, that's still in discussion, and I'm not actually sure where we are with OpenSSHD being compatible with the proxy protocol. So there's a little bit more work that needs to be done on that front, as far as just discovery and then finding a place to perform that necessary testing. So that's still a conversation at the moment. Ahmad, did I cover this accurately?
You did.
Okay.
Thank you, Kanka.
So this was more of a status update, but I'm curious if anyone has any questions, comments, concerns, etc.
Are these things all on issues? So I know there's been quite a lot of chat on Slack and things like, or at least the key points.
Yes, so the rapid action, not the rapid action one, but there's another issue that's tied to the rapid action that contains a daily update. That one has a link to our failed CER, and Ahmad, if we haven't done so already, maybe we should update that issue with the link to the new CR that we plan on testing later today. But as far as testing the procedure for the proxy protocol, there's a dedicated issue for that particular line item. In fact,
Okay.
I could plop that in here.
Awesome, thanks for that.
Let me do that.
And it might be worth, Ahmad, like if you haven't already, it might be worth trying to create a template for this CR, because you probably are going to be creating a few just to save ourselves some admin.
Anything else? Otherwise, Henry, you're up.
Okay. Yeah, good luck with GitLab SSHD. Switching over to k8s proxy and Kubernetes. So I want to give an update of where we are with, and also as the last point, talk about how we plan to switch over, because this changed slightly. So I wanted to get your opinion on that. But first, let's say where we are. So we have k8s proxy and Kubernetes working and pre. So that's nice and done. But that was easy because there was no k8s proxy before, and we just needed to install it and done. No switchover procedure needed. We also have a deployment in G-staging right now, which was easy to create, but not taking traffic yet. We did some load testing that showed that we have plenty of capacity with just the minimum of 3 pods. Like we normally get below 20 requests per second in gprod right now. And with my slow DSL connection, I was able to run 60 requests per second for some small images, and the pods didn't really show any big CPU usage. So I guess we could go way higher with just a small amount of pods. So I think with scaling and everything, we should be fine. One interesting note here is that Vlad worked on also scaling on custom metrics based on the k8s proxy responses. So this is even built into the chart already and could be used. But we decided to not work with that yet, because that also needs as a dependency to have Prometheus plugin to be installed in our clusters, and which maybe is even done already. And also that needs some, playing around with what is the right value to scale on that. And also if we just scale on responses, then we might miss open connections, because we might have a lot of requests, but no responses coming from them. So, but this is an interesting thing to look into maybe for later, because we anyway wanted to maybe play with custom metrics for scaling, also for other deployments. So maybe we could follow on this later. And coming to the switch over that we plan to do, our initial thought was to just do a change in our DNS entry for the domain name of user content.staging.gitlabstatic.net to point it to the new IP. But for that, we would need to first create the managed certificate in Kubernetes, so that SSL connections are certified with that. But the problem is we only can create a self-managed cert if the IP is already pointing, or the DNS entry is already pointing to the new IP. So we can't do it in the right order. And that's why we think a better idea would be to just create a new DNS entry, which is called, I don't know, user content 2 staging.gitlab.net. And then we can easily create a certificate for that by pointing the IP, the DNS entry to the new IP, and switch over to this new URL by just changing the config in GitLab to point asset proxy to this new DNS entry. This requires for the pods to be restarted, but that's not a big issue. We could do it manually by restarting the deployment or waiting for the next deploy. And switching back would also be to change the config again. It's just an API call, and then recycle the pods, the web pods. So this is the plan right now. After we have done the switch over, we can then take away the change the certificate to not contain the old entry anymore and delete the old DNS entry and or the VM information. So the only questions that I have here is there any problem in using a different URL like user content 2 for static content in k8s proxy? Like, do we have anything which is valuing that we are using especially this URL for static content? And the second issue I still need to find out by testing is if we change the managed certificate to not contain the old DNS entry anymore, if that would cause any kind of blip where we for a while don't have, you know, a certificate working for this entry anymore. But I think that's not the case. But we need to test this. So these are the two things that I wanted to present here. If there are any opinions on that.
So for your first question, we would need to make sure that the content security policy for staging or .com when this hits production isn't blocking requests to this domain, because that would be bad.
Do we have any CSP set for the specific domain? I think it was.
I don't think so. No, I don't think we do. I think it's just a specific kind of content. We are exclusive, not either an image or video. But there's no restrictions on domains or IP like that.
At least we should be able to test this in G-staging if this is causing any issues there. Yeah. And the other thing is then switching over, like changing the hosts that are listed in the managed certificate, if that is causing any kind of interruptions while Google is switching the certificate. I guess not, but we need to test this in staging to really sure that it's not happening.
I don't think that it would, because it can work with multiple certificates at the same time, so it shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, definitely we should test that. But I don't anticipate that would be a problem.
Yeah, same here, but let's test. That's the only thing.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah, so right now I'm waiting for AMER to be approved so that I can create the new DNS entry in staging. And after that, we could create a small communities change to let the managed certificate be created for that entry. And then we can try to start testing this in staging and then see if the procedure works with switching over and so on. And if yes, then I think next week we could look into doing the switch over in gprod.
I like
Great
awesome.
progress. Yeah, great progress.
One thing I mentioned to Vlad already, but so you have it, Henry, like in terms of what we launch with on prod, go big, like go probably quite a bit bigger than all the numbers say, because all of our experience in the past has shown us that some things behave very differently on Kubernetes. So it's fine to go large, and then some hours later, if we don't need the capacity, we can just scale it back down again.
Yeah, I saw this comment that also Vlad has written down, but we right now have 3 VMs which are board in production, and we will have 3 pods, which also
it may not
really,
be equivalent. Honestly,
anything.
our experience has really shown
Yeah.
a number of incidents we've had because of this very thing. Like honestly, I would say if you think 3 is generous, go with 6, and then you guarantee you have loads of capacity. We've had so many surprises with these numbers just not matching each other, which is just annoying.
Yeah. Okay, then let's go with 6. Can't hurt. Yeah.
By the way, our load testing has shown that right now with 3 pods, we are more than able to handle 3 times the highest that we've seen on GitLab.com. So, but still, yeah, we get your point, Amy. Better to go big.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we want to chat about?
Okay, I wanted to say the same.
I wanted to say actually, well done, like great progress. Like I think Camo has been kind of quietly ticking along. So awesome that we have Pre up and running and that's all going well. Fantastic that we're like heading into staging and also talking about prod. So yeah, well done for all of you who've been involved in this, like really great progress.
Yeah, also I like how Vlad was exploring a lot of different things like network endpoint groups and working with custom metrics. So I think we can get some value out of that later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, I think we're done here. Thanks
I-
all for joining.
I had a question. So I was just thinking about blue-green deployments in the last meeting, and in blue-green deployments, you have like a new deployment to prod, which is the blue deployment, and then you switch over, or the blue is the old one. I get the colors confused, but you then switch over to the new deployment. So I'm wondering, how do we do it now? How do we switch over to the new version without, causing inconvenience to any customers who are currently connected?
You mean in general for our GitLab deployments?
Yeah, I was thinking more about GitLab, but yeah, in general also.
Yeah, I mean, in Kubernetes, this is normally happening by fine-tuning how many pods are first created new, and at the same time, old pods are destroyed. And when old pods are getting destroyed, there is a certain kind of grace period where you still let them running to maybe let them finish any kind of requests which are still open. So there's some tunables on them. So normally you signal that you want to shut down some pods automatically, and they will not get any new traffic, but will still run for a while to maybe deal with old open connections and then dial down. And if you normally just have connections very fast, then it's easy. If you have long running connections for stuff like, I don't know, do you have a good example for something which is running very long? Some SSH sessions maybe, then
The runners are long bundling.
Yeah, then in this case you might even have to break connections after a while, because at some point you need to finish and terminate. But for them, most of the traffic, it's not visible for our customers.
Okay, thanks.
Ruben, if you're interested, I dropped a issue. It's currently in draft that's discussing the potential of adding blue-green deployments on top of what we already utilized today with Canary. Keep in mind, it's still a very draft state. It's not fully refined yet at the moment.
Thanks, I'll have a look.
Cool. Well, if there's nothing else, I guess we could adjourn. Have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful Thursday,
you.
everyone.
Yep.
Or Wednesday.
you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.